The Empty Box, the Matthew Perry estate, a perfect trust with one fatal flaw. He named in his trust after his favorite film character. He funded $120 million into it. He thought about every detail, and then he forgot his bank accounts. And the most private details of his death became public record in Los Angeles. They did.
Matthew Perry died on October 28, 2023, at the age of 54. He had a $120 million estate, one of the most thoughtfully constructed trusts any estate planning attorney had ever seen, named after Woody Allen's character Alvy Singer from Annie Hall, his favorite childhood film memory with his mother, and named trustees, named beneficiaries, and specific provisions protecting his family. He funded nearly everything into it, and then he forgot his bank accounts. That oversight on $1.5 million out of $120 million went through public probate in Los Angeles, in an environment where 5 people were ultimately charged with supplying the ketamine that killed him. That public filing exposed details his estate plan was designed to protect. This episode is about the lesson that changes how you think about trust funding forever. It's sad. I mean, this is one of those few cases that he did everything right, you know?
Except for one thing.
Except for the one thing, his one account.
Yeah. Opened up a whole can of worms.
Whole can of worms. She was charged finally, by the way.
That's right. We have spent 3 episodes in this series talking about people who failed to plan. Michael Jackson, whose trust existed but was never funded. Aretha Franklin, whose estate plan was a spiral notebook under a couch cushion. These are the cases that define estate planning failure. Matthew Perry is different. Matthew Perry did almost everything right. He had a trust and named it in a way that tells you more about who he was than almost any interview he ever gave. After Alvy Singer, Woody Allen's character in Annie Hall, the 1975 film that represented his favorite childhood memory with his mother. He put $120 million into that trust. He named trustees, he named beneficiaries, he had specific provisions protecting the people he loved. He thought carefully and deliberately about what happened when he was gone. And then he forgot to put his bank accounts in it. That oversight on $1.5 million out of a $120 million estate meant that his personal finances became a matter of public record in Los Angeles. In a case where 5 people eventually charged with crimes connected to his death, in a case where privacy mattered more than almost anything.
I want to say something directly to the women listening to this episode who has a trust and believes she's covered. Having a trust is not the same as being protected by it. The trust is the document. The protection is the funding. And most people, including Matthew Perry, create the document and never complete the process. This episode is not a tragedy. The people Matthew Perry loved received what he intended them to receive. The trust ultimately worked, but the process that got it there, the public probate proceeding that exposed his private financial details while 5 people were being investigated for his death, that was entirely preventable. This is the episode where we teach you exactly how to prevent it. I am Natalie Francine.
And I'm Alexis Nassif. This is Wealth, War, and Real Estate. Interrupted, episode 4, The Empty Box.
It's a state interrupted.
All right.
For women.
By women.
estate interrupted.
Got it. I just can't read.
I saw half of the words being left out.
Oh, yeah.
Who needs them?
What are you going to do?
Keep moving. Poor Matthew Perry. All these people. True crime moment. Matthew Perry was Chandler Bing to an entire generation. Born August 19th, 1969 in Williamstown, Massachusetts, raised in Ottawa, Canada by his mother after his parents divorced. His father, John Bennett Perry, was an actor and a model. His mother, Suzanne Morrison, became the press secretary to Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. Matthew Perry grew up between two worlds, Hollywood ambition and Canadian pragmatism, and both informed who he became. He moved to Los Angeles at 15 to pursue acting. By his mid-20s, he was one of the 6 most famous people on television.
Friends ran for 10 seasons, 1994 to 2004. By season 9, the 6 principal cast members had negotiated their way to $1 million per episode each. This is one of the most famous contract negotiations in television history, and it required every one of them to hold together and bargain collectively. Matthew Perry's share of that, combined with syndication, royalties from one of the most rerun shows in television history, film work, and his 2022 memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Bing, Terrible Thing, built an estate estimated at $120 million. The memoir title alone tells you who Matthew Perry was. He was not someone who hid from difficulty. He was someone who named it. He had fought addiction to alcohol, to opioids publicly and courageously.
Most of his adult life. He converted his Malibu home into a sober living facility called Perry House. He received the Phoenix Rising Award from the Phoenix House Foundation for his advocacy work in addiction recovery. He spoke openly about the fact that his sobriety was the most important achievement of his life, more important than friends, more important than any of the money.
Thank you.
He also thought seriously about his legacy, and that seriousness is reflected in the Alvy Singer Living Trust. Alvy Singer is the character Woody Allen plays in Annie Hall, the neurotic, self-deprecating, deeply romantic New Yorker who cannot stop analyzing why everything is falling apart. It is a film about love and loss and the impossibility of holding on to what matters. It is not an obvious choice for a trust name. It is a deeply personal one. Matthew Perry named his trust after the character because Annie Hall represented a specific memory with his mother, a childhood moment of connection, a film that made him feel understood. That is not the estate planning of someone who treated this as a checkbox exercise. This is the estate planning of someone who understood that what you leave behind is an extension of who you are.
The Alvy Singer Living Trust was structured thoughtfully. His parents, Father John Perry and Mother Suzanne Morrison, were named as primary beneficiaries. His half-sister, Caitlin Morrison, and a former girlfriend, Rachel Dunn, were also named. He specifically included a provision excluding any future children from inheriting an unusual clause designed to prevent claims against his estate from people alleging to be his children after his death. 2 co-trustees were originally named, Lisa Ferguson, his business manager, and Robin Rusin, a close friend and executive producer. Rusin ultimately declined to serve. Ferguson became the sole trustee. This is actually a better outcome than co-trustees. Two trustees can create confusion and conflict. One clear trustee with named successor is the cleaner structure.
His will was dated 2009. He had been thinking about these things for a long time. The will directed the majority of his assets to pour over into the Alvy Singer Living Trust at death. His personal property, furniture, art, clothing, personal effects, was estimated at $1,030,000 in the probate filing. And then there was the bank account. The war, the Alvy Singer Living Trust, was by any technical measure a well-constructed estate planning document. It was funded with the vast majority of Matthew Perry's $120 million estate. It had named trustees, it had named beneficiaries with specific provisions. It contained unusual protective clauses showing genuine legal sophistication. And it kept almost all of Matthew Perry's estate completely private, never touching public probate court. What went wrong was not the trust. What went wrong was a bank account that was never retitled into the trust's name. True crime moment. October 28th, 2023, Matthew Perry is found unresponsive in the jacuzzi at his Los Angeles home. He's pronounced dead at the scene. He is 54 years old. His death is ruled accidental. The acute effects of ketamine cited as the primary cause, with contributing factors including drowning, coronary artery disease, and a medication used to treat opioid disorder. Perry had been undergoing ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety. The levels found in his system significantly exceeded those used in medical treatment. A criminal investigation begins immediately. In August 2024, the Department of Justice announces charges against 5 individuals, including 2 doctors, a personal assistant, and 2 others for their roles in supplying the ketamine that killed him. One of the most famous faces in American television has become the center of a federal criminal case. In this environment, with a federal criminal investigation underway, with 5 people charged with crimes connected to his death, the privacy of Matthew Perry's estate was not an abstract concern. It was urgent. And the Alvy Singer Living Trust should have provided that privacy completely. Assets held in a properly funded trust do not go through probate. They do not become public record. They transfer to the named beneficiaries according to the trust's terms, privately, efficiently, and without court involvement. The $1.5 million in the unfunded bank account went through probate.
Let me explain exactly what happened. Because understanding the mechanism is what protects you. Matthew Perry had what estate planners call a pour-over will. A pour-over will is a specific type of will that directs all of your assets at death to pour into your existing trust. It is the safety net. It says if I die with anything outside my trust, the assets should move into the trust and be administered according to the trust terms. The pour-over will is essential. Every person with a trust should have one. But here is the critical thing that most people misunderstand. The pour-over will is the safety net. It is not the plan. Assets that pour over through the will still go through probate first. They still become public record. They still cost time and money to administer in a public court proceeding. The pour-over will catches what the trust missed. It does not prevent the cost of that miss.
In Matthew Perry's case, the pour over well worked exactly as designed. The 1.5 million bank account went through probate and then poured into the Alvy Singer Living Trust. His parents and other beneficiaries received what he intended. The trust ultimately delivered on its promise, but the probate filing became public. The details of who was named as beneficiaries, the specific assets, the personal property valuation, the financial structure were accessible to anyone in Los Angeles County who wanted to read them. And in a case where federal prosecutors were simultaneously building a criminal case connected to his death, that is not a minor inconvenience. That is a significant exposure that Matthew Perry's careful estate planning was specifically designed to prevent.
Why the bank account was never retitled. I want to address something directly because I hear this question from clients all the time. Why do people with properly constructed trusts have assets outside them? How does someone who thought carefully enough to name his trust about a Woody Allen character who specifically excluded future children from inheriting, how does that person forget to put his bank accounts in the trust? The answer is almost always the same. Life moved, new accounts opened, the trust was recreated at one point in time, and the assets kept changing. The house went in the trust. The investment accounts went in the trust. The intellectual property rights went into the trust. And a bank account opened 3 years later, or 5 years later, or last month never made it in.
This is the most common estate planning failure in America. Not the failure to create a trust, the failure to maintain it. The failure to treat it as a living document that must be updated every time your financial picture changes. Matthew Perry's trust was created in around 2009. He died in 2023. 14 years of life, 14 years of new accounts, new assets, new financial arrangements. The trust held most of it. One account slipped through. The war. The trust is not self-maintaining. When you create a trust and fund it with your home, your investment accounts, your intellectual property, your business interests, you have done the hard work. But every new asset you acquire after that must also be titled in the trust's name. Every new bank account, every new investment, every new property, every new asset of any significance. The trust is a container, and a container only holds what you put into it, including everything you acquire after the day you create it.
The lesson, the trust audit, and the annual review.
But hopefully this is good information for
It
people
is.
to at least remember to update my trust. Oh yeah, we got to do that, baby.
You know, and the other thing everybody has to know, that we are not attorneys, trust planners, or accountants.
The Matthew Perry case gives us the cleanest, most actionable 3-step trust audit in this entire series. 3 things. You can complete all 3 this week.
Step 1, obtain a complete inventory of every asset you own, every bank account, checking, savings, money market, certificates of deposit, every investment account, brokerage accounts, retirement accounts, 401k, IRA, pension interest, every piece of real property, primary residence, investment properties, vacation homes, commercial real estate, every vehicle of significant value, every business interest, every intellectual property holding copyrights, trademarks, royalty agreements, every life insurance policy with a cash value. Write it all down. every single one.
Step 2. For each asset on that list, check the title. Who is listed as the legal owner? Log into your bank accounts right now and look at the account name. Does it say your name personally, John Smith, or does it say the name of your trust, the John Smith Revocable Living Trust? If your name appears personally, that asset is outside of your trust. It will go through probate when you die. For real property, pull your deed. The deed is the legal record of who owns the property. If your name appears personally on the deed, the property is not in the trust. A deed transfer is required to move it in. Your attorney prepares a new deed. You sign it. It gets recorded. It's not complicated.
No.
It takes weeks. And it is the single most important thing most people with existing trusts have not done.
Step 3, call your estate planning attorney this week, not this month, this week. Give them the list from step 1, the title review from step 2. Tell them who you want every personal held asset of significance retitled into your trust. They will prepare the documents. They will walk you through the process. For most assets, it is a straightforward administrative task that your attorney has done hundreds of times. For bank accounts specifically, your attorney can prepare a letter of instruction. Most banks have a process for retitling accounts into a trust that takes a single visit or a single signature. The bank sees this every day. It is not unusual. It is not complicated. It is just something most people never do because nobody tells them they need to do it.
You need to do it.
You need to do it now.
Definitely. The 3-step audit addresses where you are today. The annual review is how you make sure you never fall back into the same situation. Once a year, every year, sit down with your estate planning attorney and do the audit again. Every new asset that entered your life the previous 12 months, every new account, every new property, every new business interest, every significant change in your financial picture. Is it there? Good. Move it in. Is it already in the trust? Check the title to confirm. Did your trustee change? Did a beneficiary situation change? Did you have a significant life event, marriage, divorce, birth of a child, death of a family member, that requires the trust to be updated? The annual review is not excessive. It takes one meeting with your attorney, probably 90 minutes, and it is the difference between a trust that actually protects everything you have and a trust that protects most of what you have, with one account slipping through the cracks.
Matthew Perry had $120 million in his trust and $101,500,000 outside it. The 1.25%, the account, is what made his death a public court record. He was 98.75 protected. Do the audit. Close the gap. Don't be 98.75. Be 100%.
Mm-hmm. I want to spend a moment on something that goes beyond the trust mechanics, because the Matthew Perry case has a dimension that most estate planning discussions miss. 5 people were charged with crimes connected to his death. 2 doctors, a personal assistant, and 2 others. The criminal case against them depended in part on understanding who had access to Matthew Perry, who was in his life, who managed his affairs, who had relationships with the people who supplied the ketamine. A properly funded trust does not just protect your assets after you die, it reduces the public exposure of your financial relationships while the circumstances of your death are being investigated. When your estate goes through probate, The details of your financial life become accessible in a public courthouse. Who your trustees are, who your beneficiaries are, what you owned, what you owed, who was connected to your money. Privacy in estate planning is not vanity. It is protection for you, for the people you love, and as the Matthew Perry case demonstrates, for the integrity of any investigation that may follow. The war. The most dangerous trust in the trust you created and never reviewed again. Assets change. New accounts open. New properties are acquired. New businesses form. Every asset that enters your life after your trust was created is, by default, outside of your trust until you deliberately move it in. The annual review is not a luxury. It is the minimum standard of estate planning hygiene for anyone with meaningful wealth. Matthew Perry understood this well enough to name his trust after a movie character. He did not just complete the process. Do not let one account be the difference between a protected legacy and a public record. Matthew Perry understood legacy. He thought about it seriously enough to name his trust after a character from a film that represented a memory with his mother. He fought addiction publicly because he understood that his story might help someone else. He converted his home into a place of recovery because he understood that what he built could be used to protect other people. That is someone who thought carefully about what he was leaving behind. And one bank account, one account that was never retitled, slipped through. The people he loved received what he intended. The trust worked. But the process was more public than it needed to be, more exposed than it needed to be, in circumstances where exposure carried real risk.
Your action from this episode is specific and immediate. This week, not this month, this week, log into every financial account you own and check the title, check your deed, check your investment accounts. Make a list of everything that is in your name personally rather than the name of your trust, and call your estate planning attorney. Give them the list. Ask them to prepare the retitling documents. It will take one meeting. It will cost you far less than you think, and it is the difference between a trust that protects everything you have built and an empty box.
Next episode, we go to Memphis. Lisa Marie Presley made a change to her trust in 2016 and never told her mother. The silence cost her estate over $1 million and put Graceland in the middle of a family war between a grandmother and a granddaughter. Episode 5, The Secret Amendment.
The 20-year question for this week. 20 years from now, when the people you love are looking back at how you protected what you built, will there be assets outside your trust that slip through? Or will you have done the audit, closed the gap, and made sure the container holds everything you put into it?
I am Natalie Francine. This is Estate Interrupted.
I'm Alexis Nassif. This is Wealth, War, and Real Estate. For women, by women.
See you next episode.
Very good.
Thank you
Oops.
so much.